I'm Natalie Greene, 32, sitting in a dim motel room, my life packed into a duffel bag, the TV flickering with news I can't focus on. My father's voice echoes, "Go back to the barracks, Natalie." My mother's sneer burns and my sister Harper's scoff cuts deeper. They sold my car, my only anchor to fund their lavish vacation, leaving me here alone clutching my worn dog tag. The metal's cold, etched with my name, a relic from deserts I survived. I trace its edges, remembering nights under stars far from this town's judgment. How did my family turn their backs on me? Have you ever felt betrayed by those you love most? I'm curious where you're watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's share this journey together. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, wiping down sticky tables at a small-town diner, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like regret. My Army discharge papers are folded in my pocket, a reminder of a life I thought I'd left behind. The air's thick with grease and the hum of a dying fan. It's been weeks since my family's betrayal, and I'm scraping by pouring coffee for truckers and locals who barely look at me. The lunch rush is slowing when I hear a familiar laugh from a corner booth. My stomach twists. It's my sister Harper, surrounded by her friends, their voices loud and careless, their perfume sharp in the stale air. I stay behind the counter pretending to scrub a spot that's already clean, but her words carry. Natalie thought she was some big-shot soldier, Harper says, her tone dripping with mockery. Wasted years playing hero, and now look at her, back in this dump serving coffee. Her friends laugh sharp and cruel like they're tearing into me for sport. I grip the rag tighter, my knuckles white, the fabric rough against my calloused hands. I want to storm over to tell her she's wrong, but my feet won't move, heavy as if rooted in sand. Harper's wearing my old high school jacket, the one I gave her before I enlisted, back when we shared secrets under porch lights. It's faded now, but seeing it on her feels like a punch. I remember sewing a patch on it for her, a little star she loved. My fingers pricked by the needle as I worked late into the night. Now she's flaunting it like my past is just a prop for her story. One of her friends, a girl with a high ponytail, chimes in. "Didn't she get kicked out of the Army or something? My cousin said she couldn't hack it." That's a lie. I wasn't kicked out. I served 2 tours, led my unit through hell, and came home with commendations nobody in this town cares about. The memory of a medal pinned to my chest flashes its weight, fleeting but real. But Harper doesn't correct her. She just laughs again, louder, like she's enjoying the rumor. "Yeah, well, she's always been a mess," she says. "No wonder she's stuck here." I feel heat rising in my chest, a mix of shame and fury, my pulse loud in my ears. I want to scream that I'm not a mess, that I carried soldiers to safety, that I earned every scar under fire. But I don't. I just keep wiping the counter, my hands shaking, the rag's damp threads catching on my skin. The bell above the door jingles as another customer leaves, and I catch a glimpse of myself in the glass. Tired eyes, hair pulled back too tight, a woman who doesn't look like the soldier I used to be, the one who navigated chaos with a steady hand. Elise, my coworker, brushes past me with a tray of plates, her apron streaked with ketchup. She's older, maybe 40, with a kind smile that doesn't ask too many questions. She notices my grip on the rag, the way I'm staring at Harper's table. "You okay, Nat?" she asks softly, her voice low so no one else hears, her hand lingering near mine like a quiet promise. I nod, but it's a lie and she knows it. She doesn't push, just squeezes my arm, her touch warm against the cold knot in my chest, and heads to the kitchen. I try to focus on refilling ketchup bottles, the glass cool and slick in my hands, but Harper's voice cuts through again. "She's probably jealous," she says, tossing her hair, the star patch glinting under the lights. We're all moving on, and she's stuck in the past. Her friends nod, sipping their sodas, their straws clinking against ice, and I feel like I'm shrinking, like I'm nothing. I think about the nights I spent writing letters to Harper from dusty bases, telling her I was proud of her, promising we'd be close again, my pen scratching under a flickering lamp. Those letters feel like a joke now. The diner's fluorescent lights hum above me, and the smell of burnt toast lingers sharp in my nose. I want to walk over to tell Harper how much she's hurting me, but the words stick in my throat, heavy as gravel. What if she laughs in my face? What if she's right, and I am a failure. The thought makes my chest ache like I'm carrying a weight I can't put down. Elise comes back, her apron stained with grease, and whispers, "Don't let them get to you, Nat. You're stronger than that." Her words are a faint echo of the sergeant who trained me, her voice steady in the chaos of drills. Her kindness stings as much as it soothes, but it doesn't erase Harper's venom. Her laugh echoes again, slicing through the diner's hum, and I realize I'm not just hurt, I'm angry. Angry at her for twisting my life into a punchline, angry at myself for not fighting back. I glance at the clock, its hands ticking too slowly. My shift's almost over, but I know I can't stay here, not with Harper's voice ringing in my ears. I need to get out to breathe, to figure out how to face this betrayal without losing the woman I fought so hard to become. I slip out the diner's back door, the gravel crunching under my boots, as I head toward my parents' house. It's a 20-minute walk, and the autumn air bites my cheeks sharp with the scent of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke. I need my things, my last tether to a life I thought I'd reclaim. My shift left me with $7 in tips, barely enough for coffee, and the weight of Harper's words clings to me like damp clothes, heavy and cold. I'm 32, Natalie Greene, and I'm walking to beg for scraps of my own life, each step a reminder of how far I've fallen. The house looms at the end of the street, its porch light glowing like it's mocking me, casting long shadows across the lawn I used to mow. I knock my breath catching, hoping for a sliver of warmth, a memory of Sunday dinners when we'd laugh over burnt casserole. My father Gregory opens the door, his face hard like he's been waiting to shut me out. "What do you want, Natalie?" he says, his voice flat. No trace of the man who once cheered at my softball games, his cap backward, his grin wide. "I need my stuff," I say, trying to keep my voice steady, though it wavers like a candle in the wind. He steps aside barely, and I walk into the living room where my mother Sheila sits on the couch, flipping through a magazine, its glossy pages crinkling. She doesn't look up, her silence louder than any shout. My stomach knots tighter, a fist of dread and hurt. There's a box by the stairs, my name scrawled on it in marker like I'm a stranger moving out, not their daughter, who sent money home from war zones. I kneel to check at some clothes, a pair of boots, a cracked phone charger, all smelling faintly of mildew. It's not even half of what I left here. "Where's the rest?" I ask, my voice sharper than I meant, cutting through the room's stillness. Gregory hands me a check, $200 folded like it's an afterthought, the paper crisp against my fingers. "That's all you're getting," he says. "You've been a burden long enough." The words hit like a slap, my ears ringing with their sting. I stare at the check, my hands trembling, its numbers blurring. This is what I'm worth to them, $200 after years of sending money home from my deployments. My paychecks, mailed from dusty outposts to keep their lights on. Sheila finally glances up, her eyes cold like I'm a stranger intruding on her evening. "You should be grateful," she says, her voice clipped, the magazine snapping shut. "We had to move on after you chose that army nonsense over us. I want to scream that I served for them, for all of us, that every mission was a promise to make them proud, but my throat tightens. Words trapped like flies in a jar. I spot a photo frame on the mantel, one I sent from my first tour, me in uniform, smiling, the desert sun harsh behind me. It's gone from its usual spot, shoved in a drawer like trash, its glass smudged with neglect. I open my mouth to argue, but Gregory cuts me off, his voice low and final. "We sold your car," he says, like it's nothing, like he's mentioning the weather. "Needed the money for a family trip to Hawaii. You weren't using it. My car. The one I saved for the one I drove to every drill before I enlisted, its steering wheel worn smooth by my hands. My escape, my independence gone." I picture them lounging on a beach, sipping drinks while I'm couch surfing and scraping by my dreams traded for their sunburns. "You sold it," I whisper, my voice breaking, barely audible over the hum of their old clock. Sheila rolls her eyes, her bracelets jangling. "Don't be dramatic, Natalie. You're not part of this anymore." The room feels like it's closing in, their words carving into me, each one a chisel against my heart. I grab the box, my hands shaking so hard I nearly drop it, the boots inside rattling. I want to yell, to demand they see me, but they're already turning away like I'm invisible, a ghost in their perfect house. Outside, the cold air stings my eyes, or maybe it's tears I won't let fall. My phone buzzes a text from Elise, the diner coworker who's been kinder than my own blood. Got space for your stuff if you need it, she writes, her words a faint light in the dark. It's a small gesture, but it keeps me from breaking like a hand pulling me from quicksand. I clutch the box tighter, the check crumpled in my pocket, and walk into the night, their betrayal fueling a fire in me. I'm not done yet, but I don't know how to fight this kind of hurt, this ache that feels like home turning to ash. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, nursing a cheap beer at Rusty's Bar. The kind of place where the jukebox plays songs nobody's chosen, its neon glow flickering against chipped paint. My box of belongings sits by my feet, the $200 check from my parents burning a hole in my pocket, its edges fraying like my nerves. I walked here from their house, my legs moving on autopilot, trying to outrun the sting of their words. Sheila's cold dismissal, Gregory's smug family trip excuse, they sold my car, my lifeline for a vacation I wasn't invited to. The bar's air is heavy with spilled liquor and old regrets, and I'm still reeling when a familiar voice snaps me back. It's Lucas, my old high school friend, sliding onto the stool next to me, his polished shoes out of place on the sticky floor. He's a lawyer now, his suit pressed, his grin not quite reaching his eyes, like he's performing for someone who isn't here. Natalie Greene. As I live and breathe, he says, like we're picking up where we left off back when we'd sneak beers by the river. I force a smile, but my chest feels tight, my fingers gripping the bottle's cold glass. Lucas was there when I enlisted, promising to write his handwriting messy on a napkin he never sent. Been a while, I say, sipping my beer to avoid his gaze, its bitter taste sharp on my tongue. He orders a whiskey, then pulls out his phone, scrolling like it's second nature. The screen's glow harsh against the bar's dimness. You see your family's posts? He asks, oblivious to the knife he's twisting. They're killing it in Hawaii. Look at this. He shoves the screen toward me, and there it is. Harper, my sister, grinning in a lei, my parents raising cocktails on a beach, the ocean glittering behind them. The caption reads, "Living our best life." I'm nowhere in the picture, like I never existed, my absence a void in their sunlit frame. My throat burns not from the beer, but from the ache of being erased, my fingers tightening around the bottle. Yeah, looks fun. I manage my voice flat, barely masking the hurt. Lucas doesn't notice, still scrolling his thumb, flicking past more photos. They're really living it up, he says, his tone light like he's sharing gossip about strangers. You must be proud of them. Proud, I want to laugh, but it comes out as a cough, rough and raw. They sold my car, took my savings, and left me with a box of junk, and he thinks I'm proud. I stare at the bar top, tracing scratches in the wood with my finger, each mark a story I'll never know. Lucas keeps talking something about his law firm, his voice a drone against the jukebox's wail. I see my parents' faces in that photo, carefree, while I'm here barely holding it together, my boots scuffed from walking nowhere. You okay, Nat? Lucas asks, finally noticing my silence, his hand hovering like he might touch my shoulder. You're a vet, right? You've got this. His tone is so casual, like my struggles are just a phase, like surviving war means I can survive anything, as if loss is just another checkpoint. I want to tell him he's wrong, that coming home was harder than any mission, that my family's betrayal cuts deeper than any wound, its edges jagged and raw. But I don't. I just nod, my jaw tight, my teeth grinding. The bar feels smaller now, the air thick with cigarette smoke, and my own anger curling like fog around me. Lucas pats my shoulder like that fixes everything and says, "You'll bounce back." Always do, his words empty as the bottles lining the shelf. Then I hear a gravelly voice from the end of the bar. "Leave her be, kid," it says. It's Walter, an older guy with a gray beard and a faded army cap, his hands weathered like old maps. He's a regular here, always quiet, always watching his eyes, carrying stories he doesn't tell. He nods at me, his gaze knowing, like he's seen this kind of pain before, maybe lived it. Family can be the worst kind of enemy, he mutters loud enough for me to hear, his voice rough but steady, like gravel under boots. I look at him surprised, And he raises his glass a silent toast, the amber liquid catching the light. My beer's gone warm, but I take a sip anyway, feeling the weight of his words, their truth settling into me. Lucas is still talking, oblivious his voice a hum. I tune out, but Walter's gaze steadies me. He doesn't know my story, but somehow he gets it, his eyes reflecting a loss I recognize. My family's out there posting their perfect life, while I'm here fighting to keep my head above water, the bar's dim light casting my shadow long and thin. The anger in me grows sharp and hot, and I know I can't stay silent much longer. I'm Natalie Greene, 32. Back in my motel room, the walls so thin, I hear the couple next door arguing, their voices muffled but sharp. My phone glows on the bed. Harper's social media open, each post a fresh wound, the screen's light harsh against the room's gloom. There's a new one, her in a sundress, laughing on a yacht captioned "Family Forever." My father's comment underneath cuts deepest. She'll learn her lesson. I stare at it, my heart pounding, the words blurring as my eyes sting the phone heavy in my hand. They're talking about me like I'm a mistake to be fixed, a lesson to be taught. I scroll further, unable to stop, each photo a reminder of my absence, their smiles bright against tropical skies. My mother's smile, my father's arm around Harper, their perfect life without me. I think of the nights I spent in a desert tent, writing letters to them, pouring out my fears, my hopes, my pen scratching under a dim lantern. I found one today tucked in my box of belongings, my handwriting shaky from exhaustion, the paper creased from years of being forgotten. I'm doing this for us, I wrote, believing they'd care. What a fool I was. The room feels suffocating, the air stale with mildew, the carpet rough under my pacing feet. I set the phone down, but my hands won't stop trembling, my nails digging into my palms. I want to call Harper to demand why she hates me, why they all do to make her hear the truth of my scars. I dial her number, my pulse racing, each ring loud in the quiet room, and she picks up on the third ring. "What do you want, Natalie?" she says, her voice sharp like I'm interrupting her paradise, her words slicing through the line. "I saw your posts," I say, my throat tight, my voice barely holding. "Why are you doing this, acting like I don't exist?" There's a pause. Then her laugh, cold and cutting like ice cracking. "You're not part of this family anymore," she says. "You chose your path, and it's not our fault you crashed." The line goes dead before I can respond, her words echoing in the silence, each one a stone in my chest. I drop the phone, my chest heaving, the room spinning. Crashed, I survived ambushes, carried wounded soldiers to safety, earned medals they'll never see their weight heavy in my memory. But to her, I'm nothing, a shadow they've erased. I pace the room, the carpet worn under my boots, my mind spiraling. Did I choose wrong? Was enlisting a mistake? The questions claw at me, each one heavier than the last, like sandbags piling up. There's a knock at the door and I freeze, hoping it's Elise with her quiet kindness, her voice a balm to this wound. It's just the motel clerk sliding a note under the door, the paper crinkling against the floor. I pick it up, my hands unsteady, the ink smudged from his grip. It's from Walter, the veteran from the bar. "I've been where you are," it reads. "You're not alone. Call if you need to talk." His number's scrawled at the bottom, his handwriting jagged but clear, and I clutch the note, its weight a faint comfort. But I can't bring myself to dial, my fingers frozen. I sit on the bed, the springs creaking, and stare at the note, its edges curling. Walter's words are a lifeline, but I'm drowning in Harper's rejection, my parents' dismissal, their voices louder than my own. My family's built a world where I don't fit, and every post, every comment feels like they're burying me alive, their laughter echoing through my phone. I clutch the letter I wrote years ago, its edges frayed, its words, a naive promise to a family that doesn't exist. The weight of their betrayal presses harder, a storm I can't outrun, and I'm not sure how much more I can take before I break. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, standing in a crowded community center, the air thick with chatter and the smell of cheap coffee, brewed too long in a dented urn. Walter, the veteran from the bar, invited me to this veterans event, said it'd be good for me, his voice gruff but earnest over a crackling phone call. I'm here clutching a paper cup, its rim fraying, trying to blend in my boots, scuffing the linoleum floor. Then I spot them, my family, right in the middle of the room, their presence like a punch I didn't see coming. Harper's in a bright dress, smiling for photos. My parents nodding along like they're saints supporting the cause, their faces polished for the crowd. My stomach churns, bile rising. They're here for clout. Not for me, their charity, a performance I wasn't invited to. I stay near the back, my boots scuffing the floor, hoping they don't see me, my breath shallow in the crowded heat. But Harper's eyes lock onto mine, and her smile twists into something sharp like a blade catching light. She strides over her heels, clicking each step deliberate, and before I can move, she's speaking loud enough for everyone to hear her voice carrying over the hum of voices. Natalie, what are you doing here? This is for real, veterans, not wannabes who couldn't cut it. The room quiets, heads turning the air heavy with sudden attention. My face burns, my pulse hammering in my ears, loud as a distant explosion. I want to disappear, but I'm rooted to the spot, my legs leaden. Harper holds up my old dog tag, the one I thought I'd lost, dangling it like a trophy, its chain glinting under the fluorescent lights. Found this in your junk, she says, smirking, her lips curled in triumph. A souvenir from your little soldier game. The crowd murmurs, and I feel their eyes on me, judging, pitying, their whispers, a tide pulling me under. I open my mouth, but nothing comes out, my voice trapped in my throat. My service, my scars, my nights in the desert, they're nothing to her, reduced to a prop in her cruel play. She's turned my life into a punchline, and the worst part is, my parents are right behind her, watching, their faces unyielding. Gregory's face is stone, his arms crossed, his jaw tight as ever. You should have stayed in the barracks, Natalie, he says, his voice low but clear, cutting through the crowd's hum like a sniper's shot. You don't belong here. Each word is a blade slicing through what little strength I've clung to, my heart racing like it did under fire. I look at Sheila, hoping for something, anything, a flicker of the mother who once braided my hair. But she's busy smiling at a photographer, her earrings catching the light, pretending she doesn't hear. The dog tag glints in Harper's hand, and I see flashes of my past, carrying a wounded soldier to safety, his blood on my hands, writing orders under fire, earning that tag with blood and sweat, its weight a promise I kept. Now it's a prop in her performance, a mockery of my life. Elise, my coworker from the diner, is here too, standing near the refreshment table, her apron swapped for a faded cardigan. She catches my eye, her face soft with concern, and steps closer, her sneakers quiet on the floor. You don't deserve this, Nat, she whispers, her hand brushing mine, her fingers warm against my cold skin. But her kindness feels distant, drowned out by the weight of my family's words, their venom louder than her quiet support. The crowd's whispers grow a chorus of judgment, and I feel like I'm shrinking, my life reduced to their lies, my story rewritten by their cruelty. I want to scream, to tell them who I am, what I've done, the battles I fought for strangers and for them, but my throat's tight, my hands shaking, my cup crumpling in my grip. Harper tosses her hair, turning back to her audience, the dog tag swinging in her grip, and I'm left standing there, exposed, the room's heat pressing against me. The walls feel closer, the air thinner, and I don't know how much longer I can hold myself together before everything shatters, my heart pounding like a drum in a war I thought I'd left behind. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, still frozen in the community center's parking lot, the night air cold against my flushed face, carrying the faint scent of exhaust and wet pavement. Harper's words echo, her smirk seared into me as she dangles my dog tag, its chain glinting faintly under a street lamp. I step forward, my voice barely a whisper, raw and unsteady. Give it back, I say, my hand outstretched, trembling in the chill. She laughs sharp and cruel and tosses it at my feet, the metal clinking on asphalt, a small brutal sound. Take your junk and leave, she snaps, turning away like I'm nothing, her dress swishing as she rejoins the crowd. The crowd lingers, their whispers a low hum like static in my ears. But it's my mother's voice that cuts through, cold and deliberate. Sheila steps closer, her purse clutched tight, her face a mask of false pity, her lipstick too bright in the dim light. "You always made things harder than they needed to be," she says loud enough for others to hear her words carrying across the lot. "We had to use your savings, Natalie. You weren't here. We deserved that trip. My savings. Years of paychecks sent home every cent I scraped together in dusty tents. Gone for their beach selfies, their laughter captured in photos I'll never be in." I kneel to pick up the dog tag, my fingers brushing the cold ground, the asphalt rough against my skin, and the weight of her words crashes over me, a wave I can't outrun. "They didn't just sell my car, they took everything I built, every sacrifice I made for them, every night I stayed awake to keep my squad safe." Gregory stands behind her, his silence louder than any shout, his eyes saying, "I'm not worth fighting for," his coat collar turned up against the wind. The betrayal is a physical ache, like my chest is caving in, my breath shallow and sharp. A news van idles nearby, its camera, catching the edge of this moment, the lens blind to my pain, its red light blinking like a heartbeat. I clutch the dog tag, its edges digging into my palm, and think of the missions it survived, the nights I held it for courage, its metal warm from my grip. Now it's just a relic of a life they've erased, a symbol they've turned to dust. Sheila keeps talking, her voice rising, each word a stone. "You chose to leave us, Natalie. Don't blame us for moving on." Her words strip me bare, each one a reminder that I'm alone, that the family I fought for has rewritten me out of their story. The crowd's eyes burn into me, some curious, some pitying, their faces blurred in the dark, and I want to run to hide, but my legs won't move, rooted like trees in a storm. Elise is still nearby, her face tight with anger, her hands clenched at her sides. But I can't meet her gaze, my vision clouded with hurt. I'm drowning in their judgment, my family's truth louder than mine. Their voice is a chorus I can't silence. Harper smirks again, whispering something to a bystander. Her words lost, but my name clear in their laughter, sharp as broken glass. My mother turns away, her heels clicking as she rejoins the event, her silhouette sharp against the center's lights. Gregory follows, not even glancing back, his steps heavy on the pavement. The dog tag is heavy in my hand, its chain tangled, and I feel like I'm falling, my world shattered, with no way to pick up the pieces, my breath caught in a chest too tight to breathe. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, sitting in a small office at a military advocacy center, the kind with peeling paint and a coffee maker that hums too loud, its bitter scent mixing with dust. Walter, the veteran from the bar, brought me here after the community center disaster, my family's words still ringing in my ears like distant artillery. My dog tag rests in my pocket, its weight grounding me, a reminder of who I was before they tore me down. I'm here because Walter insisted, said I needed to talk to someone who'd listen, his voice steady over a diner coffee. My hands are sweaty, my heart racing, but I'm done letting their cruelty define me, done being the ghost they made me. The counselor Jocelyn sits across from me, her glasses perched low on her nose, her gray hair pulled back neatly. She's calm, her voice steady as she flips through a file, its pages creased from years of handling. "Natalie Greene," she says, looking up, her eyes sharp but warm. "Your service record is impressive. 2 tours, commendations for leadership. Why haven't you claimed your benefits?" I shift in my chair, the plastic creaking its surface cold against my thighs. "I didn't think I deserved them," I admit, my voice low, barely above the hum of the air vent. Harper's sneer, my father's dismissal, they've burrowed deep, their lies louder than my medals. Jocelyn leans forward, her eyes narrowing, not with judgment but with understanding. "You're wrong," she says, her tone firm but kind. "And there's something else. An administrative error during your discharge, your promotion to Major General was never processed." My breath catches sharp and sudden. Major General me. I think of the nights I led my unit through chaos, the lives I saved, the orders I gave under fire, my voice steady despite the fear. Could that really be true? The idea feels like a lifeline, fragile but real. She slides a document across the desk, my name in bold detailing a promotion I never knew about, the paper heavy with truth. "You earned this," she says, her finger tapping the page. "And there's a leadership role in our veterans program. You'd be perfect. Apply for it." My mind spins a whirl of doubt and possibility. A role like that could mean purpose, a chance to rebuild, to be more than the failure my family sees. But doubt creeps in my family's voices, calling me a burden, a wannabe, their words like thorns in my skin. Can I do this? Jocelyn senses my hesitation, her gaze softening. You've led soldiers, Natalie. You can lead here, she says, her words a spark in the dark. They ignite something, a flicker of the strength I thought I'd lost, the soldier who navigated chaos with a steady hand. I nod, my jaw tight, my fingers brushing the dog tag in my pocket. I'll think about it, I say, but inside I'm already deciding, the decision's settling like a stone in my gut. I'm tired of shrinking, of letting their lies win. I want to fight for myself, for the woman who survived war, but nearly broke at home. As I leave Walter's waiting outside, leaning against his truck, its paint chipped from years of sun. You good? He asks, his voice gruff but warm, his cap tilted back to show his weathered face. I manage a small smile, the first in weeks. Getting there? I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Back at the motel, I pull out a notebook, its pages creased, my hands steadier now. I start writing a speech for the application, each word a step toward reclaiming my story, the ink smudging under my grip. Elise's number lights up my phone. She's offered to help me practice her text, a small light in the dark. I'm not alone, and that thought fuels me, a quiet fire growing. I'm starting to believe I can rise again. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, sitting on the edge of a sagging couch in a tiny apartment I'm renting with Elise's help, its walls papered in faded yellow. It's a far cry from the barracks, with mismatched furniture and a leaky faucet that drips like a metronome. But it's mine, the first place I've called home in years. My notebook's open pages filled with my scribbled speech for the Veterans Program application, the words messy, but mine. My dog tag sits on the coffee table, polished to a shine. No longer a relic of shame, but a badge of who I am, its surface catching the light from a cracked lamp. I'm done letting my family's words define me, done being the shadow they cast. Elise is across from me, her hair tied back, a pizza box between us, its cardboard greasy from slices we've shared. Read it again, she says, her voice gentle but firm, her eyes steady with belief. I take a deep breath, the air tasting of pepperoni and hope, and start my words shaky at first. I've led through chaos, carried soldiers to safety, and rebuilt myself from nothing, I say. My voice growing steadier, each word a brick in a new foundation. I want to help others find their way back too. Elise nods, her eyes bright, her fingers tapping the box. That's you, Nat. That's real. Walter's here too, leaning against the counter, his army cap tilted back, his boots scuffed from years of walking his own path. He's been sharing stories of his own comeback, how he lost his family but found purpose helping vets. His voice low and steady like a campfire's crackle. You've got the fire, he says, tapping his chest, his calloused hand firm. Use it. His words sink in, kindling something fierce inside me, a heat I haven't felt since my last mission. I think of the lives I saved, the Major General title. I never knew I earned its weight, settling into me like truth. I'm not the failure Harper called me. I set the speech aside and pull out a fresh page, its edges crisp. My hands move before I can overthink it, writing a letter to my family, not to send, but to free myself, the pen scratching like a heartbeat. You took my car, my savings, my place in your world, I write, but you can't take my worth. Each word feels like shedding a weight, like cutting ropes that tied me to their judgment, the ink smudging under my grip. I don't cry my eyes dry for the first time in weeks. I just write, my pen steady, my heart clearer than it's been in months, the apartment's quiet hum, a backdrop to my resolve. My phone buzzes, news from town, a neighbor's gossip filtering through. Someone saw Harper at the diner, telling people I ran off after failing the army, her voice loud over clinking plates. The lie stings, but it doesn't break me, not anymore, not like it would have weeks ago. I look at Elise, who's practicing lines with me, her laughter soft, and Walter, who's sipping coffee, nodding like he believes in me, his mug chipped but steady. They're my anchor now, not my family's approval, their presence a warmth I didn't expect. I stand folding the letter and tucking it away in a drawer, its words a weight I no longer carry. Tomorrow's the interview, and I'm ready to claim that role to lead again to be the woman I was in the desert. I catch my reflection in the window, my shoulders squared, my jaw set, the glass fogged with my breath. I'm not the girl they discarded. I'm Natalie Greene, and I'm starting to feel whole. I pick up the dog tag, slipping it around my neck. Its chain cool against my skin, and the quiet strength in that moment says more than any words ever could. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, sitting in a conference room that smells of stale air and polished wood, my hands folded tightly on the table, the surface smooth under my fingers. The Veterans Program interview is today, and I'm in a borrowed blazer from Elise, the sleeves a touch too short, its fabric stiff against my shoulders. My speech is tucked in my pocket, its words burned into my mind from nights of practice, each line a step toward redemption. The panel, 3 older men and a woman in a sharp suit, watches me closely, their faces unreadable, their pens poised over notepads. I'm here to claim the leadership role, to prove I'm more than my family's lies, to show the world I'm still standing. I start speaking, my voice steady. Despite the knot in my chest, the room's silence heavy. I've led soldiers through fire, I say, and I've rebuilt myself from betrayal. I want to guide others home. The words flow raw and true, each one pulling me further from the woman who stood broken in that parking lot, her shadow fading. I talk about my tours, the lives I saved, the weight of coming home to nothing, my voice steady but thick with memory. The panel leans in, their pens still, their eyes locked on mine, and I feel seen for the first time in years. The woman, Dr. Carter, interrupts gently, her voice calm but firm. Your record shows a promotion to Major General unclaimed due to an error. Can you confirm? I nod, my throat tight. The word yes, barely a whisper. She smiles, a rare warmth in her lined face. We have footage, she says, and a screen flickers on its light, harsh in the dim room. It's me years ago in a desert outpost directing a rescue under gunfire. My helmet scratched, my voice calm and firm, barking orders as dust swirled. I barely recognize that woman, but she's me. Strong, unbroken, a leader I forgot I was. The panel murmurs, impressed, their voices a low hum, and Dr. Carter nods, her pen tapping the table. Your leadership saved lives, she says. This program needs that. My chest swells, not with pride, but with a quiet validation I haven't felt in years, a warmth spreading through me. I'm not the failure Harper mocked or the burden my parents discarded. I'm Natalie Greene, and I'm seen, my dog tag warm against my skin, hidden under my shirt. The panel thanks me, promising a decision soon, and I leave the room, my steps lighter, the blazer less constricting, the air fresher outside. Outside, Elise waits, leaning against a lamppost, her eyes bright with hope, her scarf fluttering in the breeze. How'd it go? She asks, and I smile, a real one for the first time in months, my lips curving naturally. I think I did okay, I say, and she hugs me, her laughter soft, her arms warm against the autumn chill. But as we walk to her car, my phone buzzes, a local news alert, its chime sharp. My interview's been picked up, set to air tonight, the words, Major General Greene, flashing on the screen. My heart skips a mix of thrill and dread. If it airs, my family will see it. They'll know I'm not invisible, that I've risen from their ashes. I'm not ready for what that means, for the weight of their eyes on me. The thought of their reaction, Harper's sneer, Gregory's silence, Sheila's fake tears tightens my chest, a knot I can't untie. I've taken a stand, but now the world might see it, and I don't know if I'm strong enough for their response, their attempts to pull me back into their orbit. Elise drives, chatting about dinner, her voice light. But I'm staring out the window, the town's lights blurring, the weight of what's coming settling like stone in my gut, heavy and unyielding. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, standing in the dim glow of a local news station's green room, the hum of a monitor in the corner, its screen flickering with static. My interview aired an hour ago, my face on every TV in town, my story laid bare, leading soldiers surviving war, clawing my way back from betrayal. The producer called it powerful, her voice clipped over a headset, but now I'm waiting for a follow-up segment, My stomach knotted, my palms damp against the armrest. My phone's been buzzing non-stop, its vibration relentless against the stiff couch, and I know who it is before I look, my heart bracing for impact. 15 missed calls from Gregory, my father, each one a demand I feel through the screen. No voicemails at first, just his number flashing relentless like a warning shot. Then a message, "Call me Natalie. Now." His tone even in text is sharp, like I've done something wrong by existing, by daring to tell my truth. I don't call back, my thumb hovering over the screen. Another buzz. Sheila, my mother, with a single line. "We saw the news." No apology, no warmth, just those 4 words. Cold as the room's fluorescent light, like they're owed my attention. I'm at the station because the story caught fire, spreading faster than I expected. The anchor wants me on live, says the president mentioned my name on CNN, calling me Major General Greene, honoring my service in a speech I never saw coming. I saw the clip, his voice steady, my name clear, a moment I never dreamed of, its weight sinking into me like a stone in still water. But it doesn't feel like victory, not with my family's calls piling up. Harper's number flashes now too, and each buzz feels like a demand, not a reckoning, their panic, a claw reaching for me. I sit on the couch, its fabric scratchy, the producer adjusting lights outside, their beams spilling through the door. My dog tag rests under my shirt, a quiet anchor, its chain cool against my skin. I think of Elise's hug after the interview, her arms tight with pride, and Walter's nod at the diner when he saw the broadcast, his eyes crinkling with approval. They're proud, but my family's silence during my darkest days screams louder, their absence, a wound that hasn't closed. Harper's last post before the news broke was a selfie with a caption, "Family first." Now they're calling, but it's not love, it's panic, a scramble to reclaim a narrative I've taken back. The anchor pokes her head in, saying, "We're live in 10, her voice brisk but kind. My phone buzzes again, Gregory's name lighting up the screen, its glow harsh in the dim room. I imagine him watching CNN, his jaw tight. Sheila's face pale, her hands twisting a napkin, Harper frozen mid-scroll, her phone slipping from her grip. They didn't expect this, didn't expect me to rise to be named by the president himself. But their calls aren't apologies. They're trying to claw me back into their story, to rewrite what they broke, their desperation, a weight I feel across the miles. I mute the phone, my hands steady, but my heart heavy, the silence a choice I'm learning to make. The producer calls me to the set, and I stand smoothing Elise's blazer, its fabric softer now, familiar. I've claimed my truth, but their desperation clings to me, a weight I can't shake, like dust from a road I've left behind. As I walk toward the lights, their beams bright and unforgiving, I feel their eyes through the screen, watching, waiting, but I'm not theirs anymore. I'm Natalie Greene, and the world knows my name, but the cost of that truth leaves me hollow, my steps echoing in a room that feels too small. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, sitting on a weathered bench in a quiet park, the kind where kids' laughter fades as dusk settles, their voices distant echoes now. The air smells of damp grass and pine, and my hands rest in my lap, holding a small notebook, its pages filled with words I'll never send their ink, a map of my pain. My interview's gone viral, my name echoing from the president's lips on CNN, a moment that still feels unreal, like a dream I might wake from. But here it's just me and the rustle of leaves, their whispers softer than the world's noise. I'm learning to let go of the family who broke me, one breath at a time, each exhale a release. I open the notebook to the letter I wrote, the one where I poured out my hurt, Harper's cruelty, Gregory's coldness, Sheila's indifference, its words raw and jagged. I read it silently, my fingers tracing the ink, its lines smudged from my grip. Then I tear it out, folding it into a tight square, the paper crinkling in the quiet. I walk to a trash can, its metal dented from years of use, and light a match from my pocket, its flame small but steady. The paper catches, curling into ash, and I watch it burn, my heart steady, the smoke curling upward like a prayer. I don't speak. This isn't anger, it's release, a quiet severing of chains. I'm done carrying their weight, done letting their lies define me. I think of a soldier I lost overseas, Sarah, who taught me to laugh under pressure to find light in the dark, her voice bright even in chaos. I walk to a nearby memorial, a simple stone etched with names, hers among them, its surface cool under my fingers. I kneel, placing a single daisy at its base, its petals soft, whispering, "Thanks for showing me how." Her memory feels closer than my family's ever did, a warmth that lingers in my chest. My phone buzzes Harper again, asking to meet her text, short but insistent, its words sharp on the screen. I read it, my thumb hovering, then slip the phone back in my pocket, the decision a weight I choose to carry. I'm not ready. Not yet. Not while their voices still echo. The park's quiet now, the sky bruising purple, the air cool against my skin. I sit back on the bench, my shoulders looser, my breath slower, the wood creaking under me. I've spent years fighting battles, some in deserts, some in my own home. Their scars invisible but real. But here, watching the last light fade, I feel the first stirrings of peace, like I'm finally finding my own ground, my own sky to breathe under. I'm Natalie Greene, 32. Stepping into my new office at the Veterans Program, a small room with a window that lets in soft morning light, its glow warm on the chipped floor. The desk is bare except for a chipped mug Elise gave me, filled with pens, its handle rough from use. I'm here to start my role, helping others like me find their footing, their paths, as tangled as mine once was. My dog tag hangs on a hook by the door. Not hidden, but displayed, a quiet testament to my journey, its shine a reminder of battles won. I'm not the woman my family discarded anymore. I'm something new, something whole, my reflection steady in the glass. Elise stops by her apron, swapped for a sweater, its wool soft against her frame, her smile warm as she leans in the doorway. "This suits you," she says, glancing around, her eyes lingering on the mug. We talk about her dreams, opening a bakery, maybe her voice bright with plans for dough and sugar, and I realize she's become my family, her support a steady hand. I didn't expect a tether stronger than blood. I don't tell her about Harper's text, the one I ignored, its words fading like old ink. Choosing silence feels like choosing myself a boundary. I'm learning to draw each line a step toward freedom. I sit at the desk, flipping through a stack of files, veterans needing help, their stories echoing mine, their pages heavy with struggle. One catches my eye, a young woman fresh from discharge, struggling to belong, her photo showing eyes like mine once were. I see myself in her, the doubt, the ache, the search for a place to land. I jot a note to meet her, my pen moving with purpose, its ink steady. This is my fight now, not against my family, but for those who need me, for the ones still finding their way home. My phone buzzes again, a letter from Sheila forwarded by the motel clerk, its envelope creased from travel. "We're proud," it reads, but the words feel hollow, a grab for my spotlight, their ink as false as their smiles. I set it aside, unopened, its weight no longer mine to carry. The office is quiet. The hum of traffic outside, a faint pulse, the city waking beyond the glass. I lean back, my eyes on the dog tag, its shine catching the light, a beacon of my own making. I'm not running anymore. I'm here rooted, and for the first time that's enough, my breath steady in the morning's calm. I'm Natalie Greene, 32, standing at a podium in a community hall, the kind with folding chairs and a faint smell of old wood, its beams creaking faintly overhead. The room's packed with veterans, their families and strangers who saw my story on the news, their faces a mosaic of hope and pain. I'm here as Major General Greene, leading the Veterans Program, my voice steady as I share my journey, war, betrayal, and the slow climb back to myself. My blazer fits now, no longer borrowed, its fabric soft against my shoulders, and my hands don't shake anymore, my fingers resting lightly on the podium. I found my place, not in my family's shadow, but in this room among those who see me. I talk about the soldiers I led, the ones I lost, their names etched in my memory, and the ones I'm helping now, their stories a mirror to my own. A young woman in the crowd, her eyes tired but hopeful, reminds me of who I was a year ago, her hands clasped tight like mine once were. I'm mentoring her, teaching her to navigate the world that tried to break me, her gratitude, a quiet light in my days. Elise is here in the front row, her smile quiet but proud, her sweater a soft green in the dim light. Walter's beside her, his nod, a silent anchor, his cap tilted back, his eyes steady with approval. My family's calls have stopped their silence, a relief I didn't expect. No more texts from Harper, no letters from Sheila claiming pride. They never felt their voices fading like echoes in a canyon. I don't check their social media anymore. Their posts, a world I've left behind. Instead, I wake each morning to coffee in my own mug, its warmth steady in my hands, to files on my desk, to emails from veterans who need me, their words a call. I answer. My apartment's small, but the walls are mine, hung with photos of my unit, their faces frozen in time, my new life taking shape around them. I pause mid-speech, my eyes scanning the crowd, their faces open, listening. They're really listening, and it hits me. I'm not invisible anymore, not a shadow in anyone's story. I'm not the woman my parents discarded or the sister Harper mocked. I'm Natalie, and I've built something real, something that holds in the quiet moments. The hall feels warm, not from the lights, but from the people here, strangers and friends who see me, their presence, a home I never expected. I take a breath, my voice softer now, and keep going, knowing I'm exactly where I need to be. My words carrying the weight of a life reclaimed. I'm Natalie Greene, 32. Finishing my speech as the crowd claps their applause, soft but steady, like a heartbeat echoing through the hall. I step off the podium, my shoes quiet on the worn floor, its polish scuffed but warm, and feel a shift inside me, a settling of something long unmoored. I've spent years chasing approval, first from my family, then from a world that didn't see me, their silence, a weight I carried too long. But standing here surrounded by people who nod with understanding, their eyes bright with shared stories, I realize I don't need their validation anymore. My worth isn't tied to their voices. It's in the work I do, the lives I touch, the quiet moments I choose myself. I think of a ritual I've started every Sunday. I walk to a nearby creek, its water cold and clear, its current a soft murmur against smooth stones. I sit on a flat rock, its surface worn by time, and don't pray or wish. I just listen to the water, letting it carry away the noise of my past, its ripples a mirror to my healing. I used to think healing meant winning, proving them wrong, showing my family I was enough. Now I know it's simpler, quieter. It's choosing who gets to stay in your heart, and who you let go with grace, their absence a gift you give yourself. My family's absence is a choice I've made, not a wound I carry. I could answer their calls. Meet Harper. Read Sheila's letters, but I don't, not out of anger, but because I've built a life that doesn't need their shadows, their voices no longer my measure. Walter taught me that family isn't blood. It's the people who show up, like Elise, who bakes me lopsided muffins, their edges imperfect but warm, or the young veteran I'm mentoring who calls me her lifeline, her voice shaky but growing stronger. The lesson isn't loud or grand, not a banner waved in triumph. It's this: your worth isn't what others call you, it's what you call yourself when the world goes quiet, when the lights dim and the noise fades. I call myself Natalie, a soldier, a leader, a woman who fell and rose again, my scars, a map of battles won. I've learned to forgive, not for them, but for me, to free my heart for what's next, to make room for the life I'm building. I look out at the crowd, their faces soft in the dim light, their stories woven with mine, and I know I'm home, rooted in a place I made myself. What's the hardest truth you've had to face to find your own strength? Share it below. I'd love to hear your story, to know what battles you fought and won. If this journey resonated with you, please like and subscribe to join me for more, to walk these paths together. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, someone fighting their own quiet wars. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for carrying your own light forward. Here's to healing, one step at a time, one breath at a time.